Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ramos. This is Ramos Radio. Today, we're going to be discussing UFC Noche, UFC 306 that happened last night, headlined by Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, and just covering the Arsenal versus Spurs game that happened today. I didn't really watch the other games this weekend. I was a bit busy, but mainly those two things. I am an Arsenal fan. That's the reason why I'm going to be covering it. Before we start, if you are new to the channel, like, share, subscribe, follow all the socials. The links will be in the description. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for supporting me. Without further ado, let's get to it. We'll start with UFC 306 because there is a lot of things to go through in this card. This card was incredible. I mean, it was based in the Sphere in Las Vegas. It's a very unique location that holds events. I've heard that they've held music events in the past before. This is the first time I actually really heard too much about it. My introduction to it was the build-up to UFC 306. But pretty much the main thing was it was very special. There was a lot of money put into the production of UFC Noche. It was created to celebrate Mexican independence. They showed a lot of, I believe, 6-part kind of movies / mini movies. Video packages explaining the history of Mexico, the history of the fighting spirit, stars that have come out of Mexico that have kind of personified the Mexican spirit, like the former boxers that I recognize the name, obviously, Julio Cesar Chavez. There was another boxer there that I couldn't remember. But yeah, a lot of Mexican fighters were celebrating pretty much Mexico, their fighting spirit, their undying warrior spirit, their ancestors. The video packages were absolutely gorgeous. The displays when fighters were walking out, the holograms that were showing up, it was just really cool. I completely loved it. It was very immersive, and I can only think the people that were in attendance must have had an incredible experience. It was very pricey though. I mean, I think tickets were around like £5,000 or something like that. Well, $5,000. I don't know if I would ever pay that much to go to an event, but if I got it like that, if I've got it like that, I might. You never know. But yeah, from even just watching it on TV, it was incredible. I mean, that just seemed like a lot of fun. They had a lot of lights in the crowd as well. A lot of legends came to watch the show. A lot of Mexican legends. Rey Mysterio was in the crowd, and his son Dom Mysterio was kind of cool. The Mexican fighters on the card stacked throughout the fight card. The early prelims, the production for the prelims and the early prelims wasn't great. I think they saved it mainly for the main card, but the fights on the prelims were incredible. They kicked off the show really well. I enjoyed those fights a lot. The main card was fun, but it kind of died down. I think the main event and co-main event, a lot of people wouldn't really say it was the best, the most entertaining fights, but I enjoyed them nevertheless because obviously with these kind of fights, title fights, there's a lot to learn from it. But without further ado, enough of me waffling about the event itself. We'll go to the main event. Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. The scorecard was interesting. 48-47 for Merab, 149-46 for Merab. But he won on all three judges' scorecards. I maybe gave one round, so I could see I was 49-46, maybe the last round to Sean O'Malley, but yeah, pretty much Merab done what he wanted to. It was impressive. Sean, for the build-up of the fight, I was expecting something similar to McGregor versus Chad Mendes. If you guys remember the interim title fight that they had, it started on the feet. McGregor with confidence, striking, using teeps straight down the middle, attacks to the body. Was taken down a few times, was getting battered, to be fair. Chad Mendes in that fight was getting the better of him. I was expecting something similar to that where there was some success on the feet for O'Malley, probably getting taken down, his wrestling, his grappling tested to see if he could survive. eventually getting back up. Obviously, in between rounds, you start the round standing up again. And maybe even, I didn't expect Merab to gas like Chad Mendes is. Obviously, Chad Mendes only fought in 2 weeks, but I was expecting something special from O'Malley. I don't know. I really thought this could have been a fight for him to really show that he was of that elite ilk. It just didn't happen, to be fair. Merab, his grappling, his cardio, even his stand-up was alright, but he just controlled where the fight was. He had a lot of fun doing it. You could see him taunting and enjoying himself, kissing Sean's back whilst he had him in like a head and arm choke, or just a head and arm position on the floor. Merab kind of embarrassed O'Malley. He just had his way with him. There was a lot of success with the takedowns, the grappling. You could just see him throwing heavy knees against the cage as well. And what he done was, if O'Malley looked like he was about to move from one position to another, Merab would just throw him off balance and keep him in a position where he just had all of his weight on top of him. He didn't have great ground and pound to be. He didn't really have any. Yeah, he didn't have any great ground and pound per se, but he did keep it busy enough for the ref not to stop it. Although Herb Dean was slightly annoying, constantly saying that he wanted action from the fighters, which didn't really make sense in certain positions that they were in. The fight was fine, but it felt like he was pressuring them to make something happen. Some people agree with it, some don't, but I think in those situations it wasn't really necessary for him to speak up. But that's besides the point. Merab dominated, got his win, new champion. Georgia now have 2 champions in the UFC. They're a very small country, but they have 2 UFC champions, 135, 145 division. They have some elite top 15 contenders across the board in the UFC. That is something special for the Georgian fans. And Merab, one of basically another champion from the New York team, the Sarah Longo team. I believe it's him. He's now joined Aljo, Chris Weidman, and Matt Serra himself as champions. I'm not sure if I'm missing someone. I don't know. Was Frankie Edgar part of that crew? I don't think he was part of the crew. He maybe trained with them a few times. I don't know. I think he would be part of the crew. If I'm mistaken, someone will probably correct me. But yeah, he's joined that. He's now a champion, and very deservedly so. I've wrote down a few notes about his performance just whilst I was watching it. Pretty much a normal day at the office for him, where he was able to control where the fight is. Wrestling really is the best pace. Maybe not wrestling specifically. Wrestling, grappling. It's just the best base. If you can mix the two together, you have fairly good stand-up. Obviously, stand-up is important, but if you have fairly decent stand-up where you can kind of protect yourself in between the wrestling and grappling situations, you're pretty much set up for success. I felt slight shades of a Khabib performance, not necessarily to the high level. I won't say that Merab is as dominant or as effective, but in terms of the constant pressure and the constant moving of positions, once he has a position, putting all of his weight onto the opponent, just being overbearing in a sense. Merab gave me that feel, especially in this fight. It just felt like O'Malley couldn't do anything, and he was kind of frustrated in his head. Like, you could see even when he was able to get up from the takedowns, he wouldn't throw any leg kicks because of the fear of getting caught and taken down. All he was really throwing were body strikes, like that, straight to the body, and it was working until late in the fight. I think round 5 actually, he was able to get some success with the teep that hurt Merab and visibly hurt Merab. I think maybe if he tried that earlier, like McGregor did against Chad Mendes, where the teep kind of started the end of the fight, he would have had a little bit more success. But, is what it is. I mean, I think Sean is the most disappointed out of everyone involved in the fight. He looks like he's taking the loss well on social media. He's kind of having fun with everything. He had a video of him in a wrestling singlet practicing sprawls and takedown defense and stuff. But I think he'll be all right. I think he'll probably be back in the title picture. He'll stay at the top of the division. But Merab, that was a big win. And yeah, I don't know who really has a good chance to beat him other than Umar. I see him mentioning Figueiredo's name. Figueiredo is really good defensive grappling. Very powerful strikes. I would assume he could have a good performance, but I think Merab's engine and just overall dominant wrestling and grappling and just hard working style is just, I think it'll just be too much for Figueiredo. Someone that's coming up from the lower division, he'll probably be a little bit too strong for him. Umar, on the other hand, obviously he's coming from the Dagestani background, part of the Nurmagomedov family, part of the crew from Dagestan / AKA wrestling, grown up wrestling is it's the Nurmagomedov way, and he also has what Khabib didn't have, an elite stand-up package. Like, I mean, the guy striking, kicking, he's really good on his feet. So that is probably the toughest matchup for Merab. I think if he can solve that puzzle, then he'll probably be at the top of the division for a minute. But even then, I think Merab is a little bit old, so I don't know how long he'll want to stay around. Maybe he'll just keep competing, because it doesn't seem like he's getting any weaker. It doesn't seem like he's slowing down. His engine is as good as anyone in the UFC. So, you know, I think that will probably be the next fight. But yeah, incredibly dominant performance from Merab. For Sean, on his side of things, what would be next? I think maybe looking back at the tape, he'll be disappointed in himself. Like I said earlier, the lack of strikes. I mean, he only threw 49 total strikes in the 5 rounds, 25 minutes. That's very low. I mean, other than the finishes that he had, all the decision wins that he had almost double, some even like quadrupled amount. I mean, the Chito Vera performance, I think he had like 238, was it? 238 strikes or something along those lines. It was incredible. It was an incredible amount of output. So, I mean, you know, let me see if I can bring up the stats here. Yeah, 230 total significant strikes, 47 in this fight. 84 significant strikes in the 3-round decision against Peter Yan. Yeah, the other fights he kind of finished, but like this first round fight against Roland Paiva, obviously not the same caliber fighter, but 39 significant strikes in 4 minutes and 42 seconds before the finish. It was uncharacteristic, to say the least. But he'll look back at the tape. I think this is an important loss for him as well. He'll probably add a lot of defensive strategies when it comes to takedown defense or getting up or being able to compete there. Maybe his focus from now will be the grappling side of the sport. I won't expect him to become a DC or a Cejudo or like an actual D1 wrestler, but maybe an improvement. It wasn't terrible. I can't say he was terrible. It was fairly decent. He didn't really get punished, but that could also be on Merab's side as well, because Merab, unfortunately, doesn't really show that. Because Merab doesn't really show that he has the ability to finish fights. I mean, he's a decision machine. If we look at his last few fights. Decision against O'Malley, decision Cejudo, decision Peter Yan, Aldo. He finished the Moraes, but Moraes was finished then himself. Decision against Cody Stamen, John Dodson, Gustavo Lopez, Casey Kenny, Brad Katona, Tyrion Ware. Yeah, like it's just all decisions, bar the two early one decision lost his first fight in the UFC. Bar 2 fights in his UFC career, he's got to decision. So that's maybe one thing that you could possibly criticize about his game, but again, that's nitpicking. He won dominantly. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Merab's got Umar next. I know he keeps saying Figueiredo's name, but I think the UFC will go with Umar. I think maybe Figueiredo will probably have one more fight. The way that I see things, it's O'Malley, Sandhagen, Yan, and Figgy that are still around, in and around that title picture. I see Henry Cejudo trying to get a fight with Sean O'Malley. Maybe he might be able to, just because of the name. Yeah, maybe O'Malley Yan rematch. O'Malley Sandhagen, which is a fight that a lot of UFC fans have been highly anticipating. The two tallest fighters in the division, so elite stand-up fighters as well. Great matchup. That would be a great chess match. Figueiredo obviously is on a win streak at the moment, so he could be in there. There's a few things, but I would expect there to be I'd expect it to be Umar next, and then O'Malley versus one of those guys to see, maybe Sandhagen, to see who gets the next title shot. But yeah, moving on to the co-main event, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko, which was the first female UFC trilogy ever. This was a historical fight in that sense. Alexa Grasso representing Mexico, obviously UFC Noche, so it meant a little bit to her, to show that Mexican pride. Unfortunately, she lost on 50-45 on all three judges' scorecards. It was a very simple fight. Counter-striking from Valentina, and then when Alexa Grasso gets too overzealous, gets a little bit impatient and dives in, takedown, control on the floor, ground and pound here and there, just dominant position. Valentina had a mission here. She knew exactly what she needed to do from the previous two fights. Obviously, the first fight, the reason why she lost is because she got caught doing too much. She went for a spin kick, and Alexa Grasso was training for that and was able to get the rear naked choke, choked her out. Second fight, you could see that she didn't throw any spin kicks. She was using the grappling. A lot of people might say that she got shagged in that fight, to be fair. She probably deserved the win, but they gave it as a draw. This time round, third fight, she made sure that there was no controversy at all. There was only one winner. She made sure that everyone knew that she took it out of the judges' hands. She dominated the whole fight, kept it simple. Valentina's the new champion, and new. It was very impressive because historically, when there's a champion that's had the belt for a long time and loses the belt, they don't usually win it back. And it's like they kind of have this dip in form as well. Anderson Silva, he lost the belt. Obviously, his situation was a bit different because he broke his leg in the second fight with Chris Weidman, so it was a long layoff. But even when he came back, he just wasn't the same guy. He slowed down a bit, lost a bit of speed, was still competitive in a lot of fights, but my point stands, he wasn't as successful. He couldn't get his way back into the title fight. I think he was gifted pretty much a title fight or number one contenders fight against Adesanya. A lot of people don't think he deserved it, but that was more of like a passing the torch kind of moment. So it was different. Jose Aldo, he lost the belt to Conor McGregor. He did have a fight at UFC 200 for the belt, the featherweight belt, when Conor McGregor was stripped, and he beat Frankie Edgar, but he fought Max Holloway twice in a row and just got dominated. He wasn't able to get back to the title after he lost to Volkanovski as well. Moved down in weight. Wasn't successful trying to get to the belt in the bantamweight division. Adesanya in a way as well. I mean, he lost to Pereira. He did win the rematch, but then he just still hasn't looked the same since. He lost to quite dominantly to Sean Strickland. That's it. I don't know why the name evaded me, but he lost to him. Wasn't able to. He got a title fight against Dricus, just didn't look the same. Got finished, which I think is the first time in his career where he got submitted. So it just doesn't seem like a thing. It's very difficult. That's what I'm trying to say. It's very difficult for someone to have a long reign in the first place, but to lose it and win it back is very difficult as well, as history has proven. But Shevchenko has proven that she's good enough and she's at the level where her IQ is just too high for people in her division. Just dominant, man. Just dominant. I think Grasso would be very disappointed with her performance. It felt like she didn't have an educated game plan going into this fight. That's the problem with... That was my problem with her performance. Because it felt like she didn't learn from the two fights before. Or she didn't add to her toolbox from the other fights. I mean, she definitely had the game plan in the first fight. Valentina took that out of the equation because she just said, no more spinning kicks. Forget that. We're not doing that anymore. That basically takes that game plan out of the window. Second fight, she kind of got lucky, but she was competitive. She has good grappling. Even in this fight, she was showing good grappling, but it just felt like she had no idea. Very similar to the Sean O'Malley performance, where she just didn't really have or see a route to victory. Her coaches were saying she needed to get close and use her boxing, which is very true, but any time she got close, she was taken down. And DC was pointing out mainly it could have been because her boxing stance is so high that it takes her a few seconds to put her arms, like it takes her a little bit longer to go down and stop a takedown. So every time she was going for a sprawl, she would just drop her whole body rather than try and go for underhooks, etc. I don't know, man. I felt like her preparation just didn't seem like it was correct. I think she would be very disappointed. They might try to, her and her team, when I say they might try to push for a rematch, like a fourth fight, but I don't think the UFC will grant an immediate one. I think she would have to get maybe 1 or 2 wins to get herself back into that picture. Because, I mean, this was such a dominant victory for Shevchenko, such a bad loss for Grasso. I don't see them making this fight again. There's nothing that, to me, that makes it seem like a rematch would be competitive. And that's the main thing about all of these fights. They would need to be competitive. Unfortunately, I can't see that. It's a bit of a shame, really. But I think the next fight for Shevchenko is pretty set up already. I believe her name is Manon Fiorot. She beat Rose Namajunas last year. She beat Erin Blanchfield this year, who is the number 3 ranked. Yeah, so it's basically Manon Fiorot versus Shevchenko. Probably next. Grasso maybe gets a fight with Blanchfield. You never know. I know Natalia Silva had a big win against what's her name again? Jessica Andrade. It could be a fight for her that we see. Maybe a number 1 contender fight. Who knows? But yeah, for now, Valentina Shevchenko is your champion. I knew, once again, it was a very impressive performance for her. The rest of the UFC card, I'm just going to have a quick glance because there were some really fun fights on this card. The featherweight fight between Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega. Diego Lopez started off that fight incredibly quick. I mean, the first, I think, maybe 10-20 seconds, he looked like he was going to finish Brian Ortega, but then decided to just take a cool, calm approach to the fight. kept his striking was clean. It was just too much for Ortega. The striking, Ortega kind of had moments in the fight, but Diego Lopez, he was just too good. It was time for him to. I don't think anyone was going to beat him that yesterday. I mean, he was so on form. It was incredible. He was victorious. With that win, I see he's probably going to be number 3, taking Brian Ortega's position, who was previously number 3. I guess he'll maybe have a fight with Volk to see who's the number 1 contender. Obviously Brian Ortega beat Yair Rodriguez, so he'll be above him. Arnold Allen, maybe. Movsar is fighting Aljo. Yeah, so maybe Arnold Allen or even Alex Volkanovski. I think I saw a clip on Twitter of Volkanovski saying that he wouldn't mind fighting for an interim title or something like that. I don't know why they would make an interim title, because the title fight is quite soon. But number 1 contenders fight, maybe. That would be a great fight. But yeah, Diego Lopez, big win. Continuing on his rise to the top of the division. He did lose to Movsar, that's it. Yeah, on his debut. I think he came in like 2 weeks notice or something like that. Very close fight, but Movsar got the dub. But yeah, Diego Lopez gets the win. The fight before that was a highly anticipated lightweight bout between 2 prospects, Daniel Zellhuber, the Mexican, and Esteban Ribovics, who is Argentinian. This fight was crazy. This fight, I did a lot of research on these 2 guys because I saw their records, 15-1 and 13-1, prior to the fight. Daniel Zellhuber, 6'1", 77-inch reach, very tall for the division. His striking is so clean, so precise, very efficient striking, not too many curves, it's just very straight to the point. And he's had great wins so far in his career. Esteban Ribovics, their careers, basically the thing is about them, their careers, Esteban's very similar. He had, but he's one of the shorter fighters. In their careers, I believe they both lost their debut in the UFC, but went on to be on like 2 or 3 fight win streaks. And it was an early tester. I think these 2 will be in the division for a long time, so we'll probably see them fight maybe once or twice more. This could be like an ongoing rivalry, maybe going on the next 5-10 years, because they're so young. I mean, let me have a look at their age. Daniel Zellhuber is 25, and Esteban Ribovics is only. It's not showing his age here. Just 1 second. Let me find his topology. (28). So he's a little bit older, but he's still fairly young in the MMA game, fairly new to the UFC, fairly new to his career. But yeah, great striking himself, 5'10", 69-inch reach. Excuse me. He's very, like I said, I was doing research on them. The way that I even wrote down notes, actually. Let me try to find what I wrote down. I had an early prediction for this fight. So this is how I thought it would go. I said the winner of this fight would be, I picked Esteban Ribovics, and it says here because of aggression, can get on the inside of Zellhuber. He has really good bodywork, which we saw as well. He hit Zellhuber with an incredible right hand that had him on absolute ice, and he was working him. It looked like he was about to finish him, but Zellhuber just, I don't know how he done it. Great defense, great head movement. He was able to find his feet. He was able to clear his head in time and just stay calm within the storm and found his bearings again. But boy, he looked like he was about to get finished. The first round and a half or 2 rounds, he looked really good against him. But once he got caught, it was a whole new story. Then there was just game plans out the window. They were just throwing after that point. But yeah, like I said, aggression, power advantage for Ribovics. maybe a finish. He could have got a finish. He had a little bit of a speed advantage, I think, over Zellhuber, but Zellhuber obviously has the long reach and crisp striking, so it's a little bit different there. But yeah, that was a great fight. I mean, oh man, that I really enjoyed that fight. That those two in the lightweight division will carry the division for a few years. They're next up for 100% sure. I mean, Daniel Zellhuber should be proud of his performance as well. He got caught, but before that, it looked like he was en route to an easy 3-round win. He looked so clean, so impressive. But Esteban Ribovics, he's just got that power, man. He's got that energy. He's got the striking ability. He's able to land. And if he lands, you're going to be in trouble. And that's what you need in this division against some of the scary guys. Great victory for Esteban Ribovics. The first fight to start off the card, Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osborne. I did not agree with this card at all. I didn't think Ronaldo Rodriguez won. Watching it, I might have to watch it back to see, but they gave it 29-28, I believe, to Ronaldo Rodriguez. I just didn't see that in my... I thought Ode Osborne done enough. I think he rocked him early on in their fight as well. Yeah, so the scorecard was 29-28, 29-27 Ronaldo Rodriguez, 29-27 Ronaldo Rodriguez. So that means they gave him... Yeah, that means there was a 10-8 round. I don't know how they gave that. I think they might have got the cards the wrong way around, because the first round was pretty much a 10-8 round for Ode Osborne. Honestly, I don't know how this card makes sense. I would have to watch it again, honestly. I think they might have got it the wrong way around. But Ronaldo Rodriguez looked like he got rocked really bad early on. It looked like he was about to get finished, but was able to rally. He got caught in was it a submission as well? A tight submission, a triangle. And honestly, it just looked like it was over in the first round, but he was able to hang on. He was able to get his bearings back and fight competitively. He got the dub. I just remember watching it and just thinking, there's no chance. This doesn't make sense at all. But fair dues, he got the dub. That was the main card. The prelims were really fun as well. Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont impressed me a lot. Her striking and her movement and her style is really cool. I think there was a head clash. Irene Aldana's cut on her head was absolutely gruesome. It was, blood was leaking everywhere. I saw an image of it. I saw a video afterwards of her skull and of the cut. I could see like a doctor pulling it to the side. You could see the skin. Oh, it was not nice. It was not nice. But yeah, that was a live fight. Norma Dumont got the dub there. Ignacio Bahamondes, a gentleman that the welterweight champion of the world, Bilal Muhammad, trains with and has been speaking highly of, even on the Joe Rogan Experience. He was saying he's the best striker in the UFC. He got a first round TKO finish over Manuel Torres. He pretty much did the same thing twice, actually. The first time, Manuel Torres was doing a blitz movement, and Ignacio just caught him going in with a straight right, similar to Sean O'Malley's victory versus Aljo. Just catching him coming in, and with that straight right, caught him. First time, I thought he was going to get the finish. Torres survived. But similar thing happened towards the end of the round. Caught him again. Got the finish with some ground and pound. Ref stopped it. Just quick tangent. I thought that's what Izzy was going to do to Dricus. I saw Darren Till speaking about how he would fight Dricus again. And he mentioned that that's what you should do, to stand your ground during the blitz. I thought that's what was going to happen. Izzy just didn't do it for some reason. I don't know what happened. It's a weird thing. I don't know. But yeah, that was an incredible finish, an incredible strike. Ignacio Bahamondes, the lightweight division as well. 6'3" in the lightweight division. This guy, I don't know what these lightweights are eating nowadays. But honestly, 191 centimeters, 75-inch reach. So the arms aren't as long as the gentleman prior that we were talking about, Zellhuber. But still, 75-inch reach is really... That's a big reach in the lightweight division, 191. And it's not like it doesn't seem like he's like a weight bully. in a way. He seems like he just is that weight, you know. But a great finish for him. Ketlin Souza, strawweight, got a great submission win over Yasmin. I don't even want to try. I'm gonna try to pronounce the surname. Yasmin Yaregui. Yaregi, maybe. But yeah, submission win. That was a fun fight. It ended quite quickly. But there was a lot of stuff that happened in that fight that was quite hilarious. The first fight of the prelims that I watched, Edgar Chairez versus Joshua Van. The round 2 of that fight might be the best round of fighting that I've seen in ages. I want to say of all time to be hyperbolic, but it's probably not true. But yeah, it was an incredible round. I mean, Edgar Chairez looked like he's about to get the finish. Then Joshua Vance came back with the bodywork and almost finished Edgar Chairez himself. Great fight. 2 absolute dogs in that fight. Flyweight fight. Opened the card. Really showed the spirit of the fight card as well. And then the first fight of the whole card, I had just missed it, but Raul Rojas Jr. got a decision victory to continue his rise in the division in the UFC. 19 years old, 10-1 in MMA. That's pretty tough. I think he's 4-1 in UFC now. That's really cool for him. I saw him actually mention that he wants to retire at 25, so he wants to fight for another 6 years, be a champion, and then just retire. If he can do that, props to him. If you can make enough money as well. I mean, starting so early in your career, learning the game, taking your time. I mean, the level of opponent that he's fighting is relatively difficult for him, but it's necessary for him to build up. They're not rushing him into crazy fights. I mean, what division is he in? Bantamweight. Yeah, he's not trying to. You don't need to rush him into title fights or potential fights with people like Peter Yan and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But he's really cool, man. He's 19 years old. He's got a fan base. He's got a funny chiwiwis. He's got a funny phrase, stuff like that. I hope that he does well, to be fair. But yeah, if he's able to finish his career at 25, retire with a belt, that would be pretty cool to see, to be fair. But yeah, UFC and Noche in total, I love the card. I'd probably give it maybe like an 8.5 out of 10. Maybe that might be a little bit, now that I say that out loud, that might be a little bit generous. Maybe a 7.5 or an 8 would be fine. I'd say 8 because, but 8 is still high. I'll give it a 7.5. Mainly because the fights prior to the main event and co-main event were really cool. They were really active. The prelims carried as well. The event itself was just incredible. And I hope the UFC are able to go back. I hope the UFC are able to put in a little bit more effort in their cards as well to make it more of an event, rather than nowadays it being a little bit just copy and paste. But yeah, it was a great experience, great card. I loved it. I was very happy with it. Let me just get this thing out of my eye. And just to finish off, we're going to cover the Arsenal versus Spurs game. Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspur. 1-0 to the Arsenal. It was obviously playing at White Hart Lane with a lot of players missing. I myself as an Arsenal fan was very worried going into the match. Ødegaard missing was obviously massive because he's pretty much what makes our team tick. We started the lineup when I read the lineup, I saw it as a 4-3-3 on the Premier League app. Midfield of Partey, Jorginho starting, and Trossard, and then Martinelli, Havertz, and Saka. So I thought maybe Trossard would just take over that midfield role, but I remembered what we used to do last year. There was a moment, like a small period last season, where we played similar to a 4-4-2, like how we did today with Trossard and Havertz playing in like pretty much a 2 up top with a flat 4, and it worked really well. And today it worked really well as well. I mean, we played mainly counter-attacking football, but we had our spells in possession. We had a few good chances. If I look at the stats as well, they were pretty much close. Yeah, 5 shots on target for Spurs, 4 for Arsenal. 15 in total for Spurs, 7 for Arsenal. Actually, no, they weren't close at all. We definitely sat back. We pretty much parked the bus here. 63% possession for Tottenham. We played the smart game. We knew we weren't going to dominate that midfield without having a player like Odegaard to keep it ticking. So I was pretty proud of how we set up in the 4-4-2 shape. Trossard did work really well, but it is a difference not having Odegaard, not just having him on the ball, but off the ball as well. The way that he initiates the press, he's like the trigger himself, and he's always running and he's always trying to press the ball, making sure that everyone's switched on, keeping the crowd engaged. But Trossard did really well filling in. He had a few moments himself. He actually looked pretty decent in the middle of the park. We had one early chance that Trossard put Martinelli through. Martinelli kind of rushed this opportunity. He had either the sweaty pass across goal to Saka, which he decided not to go for, which I'm not mad about, but he took a shot that was easy for Vicario to save. I think he could have got closer. I think he should have got closer to the goal and took advantage of it. But nevertheless, we got the win via set piece, which is pretty much what we've been living off the last year or so. Our Arsenal set pieces are incredible. I mean, the amount of points and the amount of goals that we've got from taking set pieces serious, a lot of other teams should take note of it, because it is seriously an impressive way of getting wins. I mean, I used to think about it as a way for lesser teams, respectfully, to get points throughout the season. I remember Sam Allardyce teams, pragmatic teams, Sam Allardyce teams, obviously the famously Stoke City used to take set pieces very seriously. I don't know why more teams don't think of it as a priority. Maybe they do, but it just doesn't seem like they get a lot of goals from it. I would assume, not knowing the stats, but if there was a stat for it, I'd assume maybe Everton are quite high on that list. With Sean Dyche, the way that he plays, maybe no one else really plays with a big striker anymore, to be fair. I don't know. Maybe Fulham, when they had Mitrovic, probably did as well. I don't know. But yeah, it's the way that we use it is it's basically it saved us. I mean, we got the win, a well-needed win as well, considering that Odegaard is out. We've got Man City coming up next, and obviously since we dropped points last week, we desperately needed all 3 points this week, because if we don't win or at least get a point next week against Man City, there's early signs of the league just going straight to Man City, going to Manchester again. Initially, before the game, I was thinking to myself, maybe the pressure is overstated in the media. The pressure that Arsenal is facing to stay on, to keep up with City's early success. But I was a bit naive last year. I remember that spell that we had in December where we drew a few games, and I think we lost one as well. Was it West Ham, Aston Villa, and someone else? I can't remember. But I remember thinking to myself, it won't matter at the end of the season. But it did. I mean, we won how many games? We only lost one game in 2024 last year, from January to the end of the season, and that was the Villa game, and yet that was the game that pretty much finished us off. So the early results definitely matter. So this was important for us to make sure that we didn't get 2 draws in a row. We had to get the 3 points this week. But yeah, if we can, we've got UCL in midweek, but if we can, we'll probably have to go. Is the game at the Etihad next week? That's what I'm worried about, actually. I need to look at game week 5. Fixtures. Premier League. Yeah, it's at the Etihad, so we're probably going to have to pull off a similar performance again. I would expect maybe just Declan Rice instead of Jorginho, but other than that, we're probably going to have to pull off a similar defeat again. 4-4-2, try our best to get a set piece or a goal on the counter attack, but with a lot more pressure, obviously, with Haaland and Manchester City's attacking players. They're just ridiculous. The firepower's ridiculous. But yeah, I'm really happy with the win. North London derby. First time we've won 3 years in a row at Spurs since, I think the commentary team said 1987, 88 or something like that. 3-point lane. It was cool, and I was very happy with it. We got to see a cameo appearance for Raheem Sterling and Ethan Nwaneri, if that's how you pronounce his name, Nwaneri. Nothing really much else to say. The defense was incredibly solid, actually. I'll finish off with that. Even though 2 main players are out in the midfield, which kind of hinder our attack as well. One thing that thankfully Arteta and the team have built is a real defensive solidity, a defensive foundation that we can rely on. When even if we aren't the best up top, we can pretty much consider every game. We have a chance to get a clean sheet pretty much every single game. I bet on us to keep a clean sheet every single game. I think I saw a crazy stat was like in 2024, Arsenal have conceded 3 goals away from home. Something mental like that. That's incredible. Our away record is probably what's going to carry us this year. Hopefully. At home, I'm not too worried. I think we will get a lot of wins at home. Even without Odegaard, I think we'll be fluid enough and good enough to get wins at home. The Emirates is pretty much a fortress at the moment. But our defensive record away from home, if we can get, like I said, if we can get a point next week against City, that says a lot about how solid our team is. I mean, we got a point today. If we get a point against City, it will set us up. The defense just sets us up for success, and I love how good we are because back in the day, I mean, not even back in the day, a few years ago, it was just so bleak that every game, even against the so-called lesser teams, whether we were at home or away, it was just we would concede first, or even if we scored, we would just shut off. It was a thing that our players would just shut off and we would try to sit back, but we would concede. I don't fear us. Okay, I can't say I don't fear any striker because obviously Haaland is Haaland, but I really do love the fact that we have Saliba, Gabriel, David Raya is so good in goal as well. Incredible save earlier today as well. It looked like there was a few moments where we were going to concede, but he was just comfortable, made everything look easy. Ben White solid. Yuri Timber at left back is who we needed. Obviously, Zinchenko did really well in the past, but defensively, he was always a liability. Yuri Timber going forward and defensively is just so good. He's a beast. Strength-wise, speed-wise, technically, he was just such a good player, such a perfect addition. I just love where we are defensively, and it just sets us up for success. And I think I don't want to say. Obviously, it's tough to think that anyone's going to win except for Man City, but if anything's going to win us the title, or at least get us close to winning a title this year, it will be that defense. I just can't speak about it highly enough. I mean, yeah, Arsenal got the victory. Let me look at the other fixtures before I end the episode. Let me have a look. I know Liverpool lost 1-0 to Forest. I think a last-minute goal from Callum Hudson-Odoi. United. I watched the United game. United won 3-0 against Southampton. Southampton actually looked really good first half, but they just can't get a goal. That penalty, if that goes in, is it a different story? Probably. But United did look quite decent away from home, to be fair. You got to give props to them. Newcastle actually won 2-1 against Wolves. Okay, that's big. They were losing 1-0 at halftime, so that's big for them. Palace, Leicester 2-2. Fulham 1-1 with West Ham. Man City won 2-1 against Brentford. Let's have a look. Edison assist, fairs. Villa won 3-2 at Everton. I heard that was a banger. I'll probably have to watch the highlights of that game. That looked like it was really good and really fun. Duran with a banger that I saw a clip of. Ridiculous. And then Chelsea won against Bournemouth. Fair enough. But yeah, that is the end of the pod. Thank you very much for joining me. If you do enjoy the videos, make sure to drop a like, share, subscribe. Let me know how I can improve as well if you've watched these videos, if you're still here by then. Thank you very much for joining me on this journey. This is Ramos Radio. My name is Ramos, and we are out.